This is a 1974 911 Turbo, easily a top 10 contender of the 6-stud wide Speed Champions era. And this is a work in progress, but will be an 8-stud wide version of that. Here we've got the Icons 911. I brought it out for reference because it's a really good build. I want to keep some of those features in this smaller scale. And I'm not simply going to stretch this car out by 2 studs and call it a day. I'm going to add extra details, like for example, this air duct. Additional upgrades include modified headlights. Over here I've got the original design. Over here though, I've got the headlight tilted at more of a correct angle. Got a turn signal added, as well as the shaping behind the headlight is greatly improved from the blocky original design. The finished build will be a lot smoother as I'm using newer fender pieces, which have the studs lower than these old ones, so we won't have studs showing on the top of the hood. Or back here for that matter. I am going to add a real rear window and not some sticker details, and in fact, I'm going to keep this sticker free, except for this Californian license plate. Instead of a single curved red plate, I'm using multiple plates and tiles to make up the taillight section. Over here, you'll see that I've got a consistent line integrated into the build from front to back, and some mirrors. For the build of the headlights and the rear wing, I'm actually using a very similar design as this rebrickable model from Tom's 8-wides. I made the bumper stick out a bit more for realism to the real thing, added dual exhaust, was considering making this a cabriolet with a folded soft top back here, but just don't have a good windscreen piece to use. So I'm building the hardtop turbo. It's really satisfying how this window is clipped into place and just folds down to the correct position, rests on that rear wing. Using trans black for all of the window pieces. And aside from the wheels, I'm done. To connect the wheels on both sides, I'm going to use a cross axle of 9M in length. The original Speed Champions was 7. And instead of gray wheels, let's go with black to match the big brother. I really like the look of these black wheels with the light gray bushing in the middle. The car's looking complete. However, I made one major oversight in the design, not stretching it lengthwise. And it's looking a bit short. So I'm going to need to add a brick or a stud length to the overall length. There we go. The wheelbase has been lengthened as well as the hood. I think it looks a lot better proportion-wise. I'm particularly proud of how I got this narrow air duct situated on the hood with the help of some jumper plates, and then I used this modified plate with a slide to kind of fill in a gap right there. So liking how things are looking there. Changed up the dash to all tan. I don't know if that matters, black or tan. If I were to redo this design, and I may redo it, I won't brick build the chassis. I'm going to use a specialized piece that's been developed for Speed Champions, because right now I can't fit 2 figures in there, and that specialized chassis just makes things a lot easier. Also, there's no room for a console or stick shift, so I'm definitely going to need to improve upon this design by using that specialized chassis piece. Now up front, I got the shaping where I like it, but it's a little bit too much white, so I'm thinking about changing this bumper out to black. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with this option. As for the headlights, my design using the trans clear tile blends a little bit too much into the bodywork. The original design had a Technic pin back behind it to give it more of like a headlight housing, just to make it look more like a proper headlight. So since I'm not using any gray pieces, I thought about using this trans brown tile instead. Or I can do this, use a light gray clip piece. Looks more like a proper headlight housing, especially when viewing it from the top or the front. From the side, maybe not quite as nice looking since it doesn't blend in with the bodywork, but it's a compromise. There is a subtle detail that I'm going to change up. Notice the tan line at the bottom of the windscreen piece. That doesn't really bother me much because that frames up the interior. What bothers me is that it extends past the interior details, right where the mirror is. So I'm going to change out that 2x bracket with some 1x brackets so I can get the proper coloring. There we go, got that detail fixed up. Now we just need a driver for this car. Well, this guy, he goes bananas for Porsches. So this is my 8-stud wide interpretation of LEGO Speed Champion's Porsche 911. Very happy with what I'm looking at, especially with the exterior. Could there be improvements? Yes. With the interior, sitting another fig, getting the center console, the shifter in, that specialized chassis will fix all of that. So, I think I'm on to something, and I think this is a really good start. And perhaps when this model is perfected, I can make the cabriolet version. Anyway, I think this car is probably a fan favorite of old Speed Champions collectors of the 6-stud wide era. Really like the Technic axles going all the way through, so I wanted to keep that feature the same. Just provides a nice, fun feature rolling around with less friction. Anyway, that wraps up this video. Let me know what kind of improvements I need to make on this car to make it look more accurate or just better looking in general. Thanks for watching.